What if I told you that some of the most popular games on the planet right now are owned partially or outright by one of the most evil companies in the world? That's right, we're back to talking about Chinese tech. This time, it's Tencent, a Chinese tech/investment firm that is the world's largest gaming company by revenue. They're one of the largest companies in the world, and if you haven't heard of them before, it's probably because you've never been to China. Rather than giving you a rundown of how Tencent went from its messaging app QQ to the all-in-one WeChat and beyond, I'm going to focus on where the company is now and how insidious their influence is outside China, because I assume that's what you actually care about. More specifically, Fortnite, Epic Games, and the Apple lawsuit. It's difficult to overstate the success of Fortnite. As of 2021, Epic Games is the 6th most valuable startup in the world. This is according to Lulu Chen in her book Influence Empire. If you want the whole story of Tencent, I highly recommend you check it out. In a 2019 investor letter, Netflix said they compete with and lose to Fortnite more often than other streaming services. The love story between Epic and Tencent starts in 2011, when Todd Sweeney was trying to raise money as well as cash out employees who wanted to move on to other studios and projects. Epic contacted Tencent through an executive at Morgan Stanley. Sweeney wooed the bigwigs from Tencent and Morgan Stanley by showing them the Epic Games studio and impressing them with his knowledge of gaming hardware and the direction the industry was headed. And so, in 2012, Tencent dropped over $330 million for a whopping 40% stake in Epic. At the time, Epic was known mostly for Gears of War. The current president of Epic, Todd Sweeney, mentioned earlier, has stated that Tencent has no control in the creative direction of Epic Games. In fact, one of the reasons that Sweeney agreed to sell to Tencent instead of taking a competing bid from Warner Brothers was that promise of creative freedom. This was one of the hallmarks of Tencent's investment strategy. They usually wouldn't buy a company outright, and they would keep the existing corporate heads in place. However, I'm just not convinced that Tencent has no say in the direction of Epic Games. Another major reason Epic agreed to the partial acquisition by Tencent was the success of one of Tencent's other fully owned American studios, this being Riot Games. As you likely already know, Riot makes one of the other most popular games on the planet, League of Legends. We don't talk about Valorant because Valorant sucks ass. But before Fortnite, League of Legends was one of the best models in the world for games as a service, as well as being a pioneer in the world of microtransactions. Epic wanted to move in this direction, and so sought out the help of Tencent to guide/fund them in their new endeavors. Because remember, Epic is the one that sought out Tencent in the first place. When Tencent forked over the cash to Epic, they didn't actually know that Fortnite was on the horizon. They saw a growing studio with similar goals, a hit gaming franchise, and most importantly, one of the most powerful and prolific gaming engines in the world, Unreal. Tencent's investment has obviously paid off. Fortnite made more than $5 billion in 2020. And I know 2020 was a weird year with the unspecified virus of unknown origin keeping everyone indoors. But even for the COOF, that's a lot of revenue. Around 69% of Fortnite players end up spending money in game, and the average amount spent is over $80. Free games can get pretty damn expensive. But you know what Fortnite is, and you know it makes an insane amount of money. Let's go back to Tencent and see what their stake means for the average Fortnite player. As I stated in a video 3 years ago about TikTok, supporting Chinese-owned companies is not substantially different from supporting the CCP itself. And let's not mince words here. Tencent is an evil company that, like TikTok, has worked hand in glove with the CCP to censor free speech and track its citizenry. Some people have said that their biggest app, WeChat, should actually be called WeCheck for the insane amount of surveillance it gives the CCP. Okay, I really need you to go watch that video on TikTok because I'm just going to repeat a couple points from it for a few seconds. Chinese companies are not evil by choice. After reaching a certain size, Chinese companies must have a member of the CCP present on the board. Lately, tech censorship has actually gotten worse in China, with the CCP placing more party officials in every tech giant's corporate structure to gain even more control over their slowly collapsing economy. I'll post a link to a good video of that in the description. What I'm saying is that profit for Epic Games is profit for Tencent. And Tencent is propping up the single most evil organization on the planet right now. At a certain point, I don't really care if they want to be evil, they're still being evil. Here's a fun hypothetical. Let's say Todd Sweeney decides to leave Epic. I No, that's unlikely, given that the company is basically his baby. But if he ever does leave, who do you think he'll sell to? Epic recently lost a lawsuit with the FTC for violating children's privacy and tricking users into making unwanted purchases. Do you think their business plans would get more or less moral if Tencent were the sole owner of Fortnite? Many people are worried about their data going to Tencent and therefore the CCP through the Epic Games Store. Epic vehemently denies this as a possibility, and I'm actually inclined to believe them on this count. My worry is more for the future. When Tencent initially took over Riot, they didn't buy it outright. Their 100% acquisition came years later, when tensions between the two companies began to escalate over publishing and advertising concerns in China. I have little doubt that if relations strained between Epic and Tencent, they would opt to make a similar move. Except now the company they would acquire is Steam's only real competition, and they're midway through a legal battle that would give them more pathways onto Apple and Android devices. If Tencent were ever to become a majority shareholder in Epic, you can be sure I'd be worried about my data ending up in Beijing. Again, this is covered in my video on TikTok. This is also why I think the lawsuit between Apple and Epic is really something insidious. We know Fortnite preys on children. We have a court case to prove it, and we're trying to give them more access to every handheld device on Earth? Yeah, the entire lawsuit is a battle between two massive evils, and I'm not really sure I want the underdog to win this one.
Let them fight.
Tencent's home market is spinning out of control, as Beijing has begun to crack down on video games in China. This means Tencent will likely seek even more foreign investments to strengthen their portfolio. And if the difference between American TikTok and Chinese TikTok is anything to go by, they'll be doing everything they can to make gaming as addictive as possible to as many children as possible. Speaking of the difference between Chinese apps and American apps, I should probably add that Epic just removed Fortnite from China after a round of beta testing. Tencent may have a large stake in the game, but they're not even allowed to sell it to Chinese citizens. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. All Chinese companies must be treated as a clandestine arm of the CCP. The CCP is the most evil organization on Earth, and we should all be working to actively undermine it, or at least not prop it up. I know this creates a really gross us versus them mentality, and I really don't like saying all investments from a foreign country are inherently evil, but I'm pretty damn sure I'm right. I actually don't think they're more evil than a ton of American companies that use slave labor to make their products. But we'll cover those companies some other time. Oh, and by the way, talking about Riot and Epic is only scratching the surface of Tencent's investment in video game companies. They also own Turtle Rock Studios and have investments in Ubisoft, Playtonic, Platinum Games, Remedy, Roblox, and even one of my favorites, From Software. That last one really broke my heart. I haven't mentioned their mobile game companies or their investments in other forms of entertainment. I don't have the patience or the time. Let's just say that Tencent has serious investments in over 180 companies around the world. Their reach is beyond my understanding, and that's why I think Tencent is the most insidious company in gaming, if not the most insidious company in the world. My goal isn't to make you wary of games, or even to tell you where to spend your money. I don't even really want you to boycott Epic. I don't want to punish developers around the world because they happen to have a Chinese investor. My goal is just to make you a more informed consumer and hopefully show you some of the dangers of Chinese capital. It's a big, complicated subject, and I'm not even an expert in it. I'm just one really small YouTuber doing some research and sharing it with you. If you appreciate that kind of work, please leave a like and subscribe. If you think I'm wrong, leave a dislike and a comment. I'm always open to criticism. As always, thanks for watching, and remember to take care of yourself.